नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम टू आकांक्षा डिजायर फॉर वेलनेस एंड वेलकम टू वेडनेसडे इंस्पिरेशन। आज जो हमारे साथ स्पेशल गेस्ट है वेडनेसडे इंस्पिरेशन में, वो है मंजू सिंघानिया जी। वेलकम मंजू जी ऑन
Hi.
वेडनेसडे इंस्पिरेशन. And to give a brief introduction, because there are a lot of things to talk about Miss Manju, but I have made the introduction little short because we have got a lot of questions to ask. Okay, so to give a short introduction of Manju Singhania is the founder, director, Joy of Learning Foundation. Manju is an early communication interventionist with 25 years of experience teaching children and young adults with different special needs and training parents and teachers. Manju is a joint winner of CNN IBN Real Hero Award, winner of Jijabai Women Achiever Award. Manju also appeared in interviews on ZTV, Colors Channel, and Uttarakhand News Channel. Welcome, Manju ji. I mean, it's an honor to have you here on this Wednesday Inspiration Show. So,
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Bhavani. Thank you so much for inviting me on this platform. It's a pleasure to be talking to people over here. Thanks a lot. And thanks
Uh,
for the lovely introduction.
okay, and Manjuji, actually, to begin with, there's something which I would like to ask you. That is, can you tell us in detail or a little bit about joy of learning? We would like to understand what it is. Mhm.
Well, Joy of Learning Foundation is a project. It's basically an NGO. It's a project under Shanti Welfare Trust. And
Okay.
it's an intervention center for children with developmental difficulties, also a
Okay.
remedial center for children with learning difficulties.
Okay.
We have children of various kinds of difficulties coming over here, like autism and intellectual difficulties, ADHD, learning difficulties, and
Okay.
all kinds of special needs, basically.
Okay.
And we have sessions going on with children, and then in the afternoons we have children with learning difficulties. This I'm
Okay.
talking about prior to lockdown period, because as of now we all know that we're doing a
Mm.
lot of work online.
Online.
uh, but also online has helped us to expand
Mhm.
the joy that the joy of learning is giving through the online classes. So now we are catering to children from Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and Siliguri, Darjeeling, and all these
Okay.
places. So we have online classes. So apart
Okay.
from the intervention, the remedial and the intervention classes at the Joy of Learning Foundation, we also do a lot of training out there.
Okay.
Training
Okay.
for teachers, training for parents, and
Mhm.
presently we are also a group of consultants in Joy of Learning Foundation, where we
Mhm.
reach out to mainstream schools, because
Okay.
according to the new education policy, I mean, all schools need to be
Uh-huh.
geared up and catered for children with special needs in the schools. So we
Mhm.
actually help the schools to get their teachers trained, and
Okay.
also build a resource center, so that if there's
Okay.
any difficulty with children in the mainstream schools, they could help out. We also
Okay.
have a young adult program, so we have social skills and communication development program for children with young adults, say
Okay.
above 14 years. So,
Okay.
yeah, this is all the work that the Joy of Learning Foundation is doing right now.
So you're saying that since the online classes are going on, so you are getting students from different parts of our country. So that way,
Right,
earlier it
right.
was confined only till to Dehradun, correct? So
Yeah,
now,
it was still Dehradun and the nearby places like, Saharanpur, Delhi, and things like that. But yes, now the reach has gone. And there's a little program of Joy of Learning Foundation called Magic Beans. So
okay,
I'm trying to spread the beans and grow
okay,
joy through that,
uh,
basically. So that Magic Beans is something that we are trying to reach out to different locations in India. And even I've had one or two sessions with people in Dubai.
okay,
So yeah, that's also been happening over there, and I think that's a little bit of a positive part to all the lockdown period that we've been that's been
Mhm.
happening.
Mhm.
And we all can I can understand basically about how difficult it must have been for people, for parents particularly, with
Yes.
all the schools closed, and particularly
Yes.
with children with special needs, where
Mhm.
the parents actually don't have an idea, how to go about
Yes.
it and how to teach children. So this has been a big help, that we could reach out.
Yes. Oh.
Earlier
Mhm.
times maybe that wouldn't have been possible,
Yeah.
but now
Mhm.
a lot of things are happening.
So
Yeah.
that was actually really sweet. Magic beans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manjuji, like while giving introduction, I just mentioned a word, that is, you are an early communication interventionist. Now, this
Right.
is something which is a kind of new word which I have heard. So, what exactly it is, if you can tell us? Mm.
Well, as the name suggests, when you're talking about early communication, and
Uh-huh.
an interventionist is somebody who would intervene into, if there is an issue over there. So yes, we are talking about issues and problems with the children's communication and speech and interaction in
Mhm.
the early years of life. This is
Mhm.
basically like, I have been trained from Canada for various communication development programs from the
Mhm.
Hannon Center in Canada, which is quite renowned for speech and communication development
Okay.
programs. And I, by the way, I am also the master trainer of that program
Yeah.
in India over here.
Okay.
So I've been conducting, a lot of programs for teachers and parents. In the early communication part is what, when we have parents coming to us with, a young child who's not yet started, there's no speech. First of all, there's no speech. That is what they come forward with, that the child is not talking. But when you look deeper into it, you see that there are other issues surrounded. The reason why the child is not
Mhm.
talking, maybe because so many other issues over there. So we look into all that. We look into why the communication is not happening, and I
Mhm.
feel, it's like, uh, somebody who's not able to communicate, that is one of the biggest disadvantages. You're able to see, you're able to hear things, but if you're not able to express what you want,
Yes.
you've not.
Mhm.
And that generally leads to a lot of behavioral issues in children, because
Mhm.
if you're not able to express what you're feeling and what you want, and people are not able to comprehend and understand, so
Mhm.
that generally creates a lot of issues. And then because of that frustration, the behavior problems comes out.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
look into all that. There are different sections of things that one looks into under this. And we have a program running that is called the Spark Communication Program. That is
Okay.
also a part of the Hanan program. So
Mhm.
in the Spark Communication, it is basically about, as the word says, it's the spark. When somebody is nothing is happening anyway, you're somebody who tries to create a spark in that. So just starting off, kick starting the communication. So there are various strategies that we give to parents, and various kinds of therapies that we follow at the Joy of Learning Foundation. And that's how the whole early intervention and the
Okay.
early communication
Okay.
interventionist parts comes in.
Oh,
So yeah, that's talking a lot about communication over there.
okay. Okay.
Right.
So, you really explained it very well, so that, even after our live, this session will be there on Facebook and YouTube. So people will, those who will be watching later, they will also get a fair idea about what it is. Very
Yes, and I think
nice.
it's very, very important, because most of the time what happens is, when a child is when a child has reached that stage, so maybe 1 year and 1.5 year or 2 years, and there are no words coming up, and the child is not able to express
Mhm.
what he wants, not
Mhm.
able to point out, and not able to understand what you're saying. Usually
Mhm.
what happens is, the people around the house, or the grandparents, or the neighbors keep saying, oh, it's okay, the speech will come
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
Even his father spoke very late, the grandfather
Yeah.
spoke very
Yeah.
late, so it doesn't matter. Let's wait for, say, about 6 more months. But what we are
Uh-huh.
forgetting is the child is developing so fast, and the early years are extremely important, and so
Okay.
important that You need to just seek out help the moment you see that there is some problem over there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yes, I would, like people to be more aware of that and
Yeah. Mhm.
understand that there is a need to reach out if there is a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So Manjuji, you're absolutely, right that it so happens, even I have seen when the child is not speaking, the elders, they say, okay, even, the father or mother or grandmother, spoke
Right,
very good.
right.
So that's
Mm.
very common. So let's wait. But then,
Mm.
are these a kind of early signs, or how one would, know that there might be developmental, difficulty? Because for
Mhm.
a common person who doesn't understand as a parent, so how the parents or the grandparents will understand that there is a difficulty? Mm,
Mhm. Yeah.
mm,
First of all, as I said, yeah, this when the parent is actually you can talk about the developmental milestones, the
mm.
general milestones. If the
Right.
parent
Mm.
sees that the child is not walking, it's already
Uh-huh.
been more than that age that the
Uh-huh.
child is not walking, not sitting, not if the early things have not happened, like crawling and
Uh-huh.
sitting and walking and standing,
Mm.
all those things are not happening. The child is not able to uh, you know, the child is not able to communicate, as I said,
Mm.
earlier on. So not able to express what he wants, and not only that, not able to understand.
Uh-huh.
When you're giving an instruction, the child is.
Uh-huh.
It appears that the child is not understanding, not
Mm.
listening to you. So that kind of thing, and then there could be various other signs. One is this, the milestones, which are the
Yeah.
red flags. If something's
Yeah.
not happening, the child is,
Mm.
so that is something that you would understand. Okay, there is something. There's an issue over here. The other thing is there could be a behavioral issue.
Okay.
When you're seeing that the child is constantly cranky or
Uh-huh.
making some kind of behavioral gestures, hand flapping or just
Mm.
running about, not able to sit in one place,
Mm.
or the exact opposite of that, constantly lying down and not
Uh-huh.
children are generally not like that. They would
Yeah.
get up, they would walk on,
Mm.
and they move about
Mm.
and things like that. So if there is you need to look out for all these signs. So these we can talk about the the behavioral signs, and then once when you're talking about learning difficulty, that only is more evident and more visible when the child start going to school.
Mm.
You understand that the alphabets are not learned, he's doing the
Right.
spellings all wrong.
Mm.
Every time we do, although there's so much of effort being put in,
Yeah.
making the child learn the spellings for the exams,
Mm.
the whole night, all the rectification is going on, but then
Mm.
still everything goes haywire in the end.
Okay.
So that is something. And then the handwriting, the issues, the fine motor issues. You would
Mm.
also see that the child with fine motor and gross motor, the body
Yeah.
issues, would
Mm.
maybe have a difficulty in, although the child is walking properly, but maybe stumbling everywhere, going
Mm.
and
Mm.
getting into
Mm.
things and falling most of the time,
Mm.
not able to
Mm.
hold things properly. The eye hand
Mm.
coordination is not there, not able to
Okay.
play a ball or throw a ball at a particular target. So there
Mm.
are so many at different levels that you could find
Mm.
out. One is the
Okay.
milestones, which are very clear red flags, and the
Mm.
communication thing, as I said,
Yeah.
that then the behavioral things and your cognitive, your understanding of
Mm.
instructions, following of instructions. So all these things
Yeah.
in combination together give you an idea, okay, that there is something, problem over here,
Yeah.
and that we need to consult,
Yeah.
go in
Okay.
for an expert or
Mm.
something like that.
Mm. So
So,
once we, get a fair idea that the child is, not behaving in a normal way,
right,
like the other children they do. So it's an
right,
alarming thing for the
that
parents
is
and even at the school for the teachers. So they,
right.
but yeah, but then uh, how I mean. I mean, the teachers and the parents are concerned about the child's speech or communication. But then, for example, the child is coming to your school, okay,
Hmm.
now the parents know that there is certain speech issue, and from your side as a teacher, your organization also knows. Now, how do you, like I don't know how to put up this question, because when we go to a normal school, okay,
Hmm.
so we know that this thing the child is going to learn, because it's a preconceived notion that the child will be learning all these things.
All,
But in
yeah.
this case, it will be very difficult, because making the child understand and make him communicate and all, so it will take a lot of efforts. That is what I understand, the work which you are doing, right? So
Hmm.
how do you train the kids? First thing is, I understood that you will be training the teachers. The
Yeah.
teachers have to take care of the kids. So how do you do that, training the kids?
Well, yeah. To put this, there are different levels, again, as you would say. Training the teachers is one part of it. But
Uh-huh.
yes, when the child comes, and for us, and it should be for everyone, I think, that when we
Uh-huh.
see the child comes first. You see the
Uh-huh.
child. The
Yes.
disability comes later. It
Acha.
is not an autistic child, but it's a child
Uh-huh.
with autism. Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
how we talk about the child, because it's always a child. And then that is what we need to see, that where the difficulty lies. But first of all, also look into that entire person as a child, as any other child would behave, and
Right. Right.
would grow up. And that is what the other issues are always going to be there. But the
Okay.
disability or a special need is one of the things which is there with the child.
Mm.
So we look at the child, and we look at try to do an assessment. When the child first comes, we do an assessment, and the assessment consists about the various the developmental profile of a child. We will look into his physical development. You look into his fine motor development. You look into how the child is able to cognitively think and understand,
Okay.
and maybe follow certain instructions, and
Mm.
maybe do certain activities that we tell him to do. So that is that. And then after that, we look into the child's language and communication. Also look into how the child is able to do his own work, the self-help activities, as we call it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
how is he relating to other people, the social communication is what we talk about,
Mm.
how the behavior is there. So you look into, we do an assessment with various kinds of, formal assessment checklist, and some informal observations and everything. So we look into the child with all these developmental aspects of the child. Take a history from the parents. Have an interview, and talk about
Mm.
how the birth history, and maybe even family history, if there is somebody in the family. So you'll do all that, take an history, do an assessment, and then come to the conclusion as to what exactly is the thing that the child needs.
Mm.
What is the intervention that the child needs right now. So it might be in the all the developmental areas that the child might need, or maybe a one or two developmental areas. So depending on the needs of the child, we create an individual education plan.
Mm.
Unlike the mainstream classes where there's a teacher making a plan, and that plan is followed by all the students, because you teach, and that entire thing goes on just like a particular lesson. But here, with us in the special setup and the special center, we make an individual plan for each child separately, and that would incorporate the special specifications, the special accommodations that are needed for that particular child. And then it's not just the child that we work with. We work with the parents, we work with the entire family. Sometimes even we call in the grandparents and siblings and everybody. So the whole family, because unless everybody is catering to the child's needs in the same way, there is the scope of development is quite difficult. So we do that. We form goals, and we give strategies to parents to carry on the goals, and the teachers continue that kind of the
Mm.
various kinds of therapies and strategies at the center. So yes. all these kinds of it the entire thing goes into it. It's the training of
Mhm.
teachers, training of parents, and then
Mhm.
working directly with the children,
Okay.
but only after knowing. And that IEP that I talked about, the individual education plan or the program, is continuously reviewed after every 3 months. So,
Okay.
you make goals for 3 months, you work on those goals, and then you look into, whatever, uh, you know, problems that come up, talk to the parents, and that becomes a cycle. You keep
Okay.
on doing that. And that's how we make the progress in the children.
So, Manjuji, here, like, what do the parents need to do? Because parents also realize and they put the child in the school, and
Hmm.
when the child is in the school, it's the responsibility of the teachers to teach him, to take care of the child. But once the child is back at home, now, I mean, most of the time the child is going to stay with the parents only. So now
Right.
parents also should be knowing that how to behave with the child, what has to be done. So how do they, I mean, is there any kind of training given to the parents by your organization, or is it something they learn by their experience? How does it work actually?
Both the
Yeah.
things go on. And as I said earlier too, parents involvement is of utmost important. Utmost important. The child is with us, say, for about 3 hours or 4 hours
Yeah.
at the most. So
Right.
most of the time it is the parents who are
Mhm.
there for the child, who are there to guide the child.
Mhm.
So yes, a parent training sessions are a continuous thing which is going on in the foundation.
Mhm.
It's not like in PTM and we call the parents only at the
Yeah.
end of 3 months or 4 months. It is a continuous thing, and maybe every month the child is.
Mhm.
Sometimes for the session, depending on the needs of the child, we have the parent there in the session itself. Like
Mhm.
the parent is sitting, and then we continue working with the child, and then we show the parent how to go about this.
Mhm.
Most
Mhm.
of the time what happens is parents don't know. I mean, they are not born with the preparation
Yeah.
and the knowledge and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah.
So of course, suddenly they have a child who's not learning in the typical way.
Yeah.
So they need to understand, first of all, they need to understand what is the reason behind it, what has
Mhm.
happened and what is the condition, and how is it happen, and how is it going to progress further. So we give the parent the training in all these aspects. Basically, we talk to them about what is the difficulty that the child is having, and what they can do at home in a various
Mhm.
kind of things. So yes, the parent training is very very important, as I said, and it is continuously going on. Once
Mhm.
whatever strategies that we make, we give to the parents, and then we ask them to continue that in so many different ways. Like I would say, there are when you're talking about most of the parents, I'll just give you an example. They come to us, the only reason being that the child is not speaking, है ना?
Okay.
इसकी स्पीच
Uh-huh.
थेरेपी करा दीजिए आप, स्पीच थेरेपी करा दीजिए एंड वो हो जाएगा. Because speech therapy, of course, that's a huge big thing, and then people that's such a known word, and people think that the child is not talking is only the speech part of it, the
Yeah.
therapy, speech therapy.
Mm.
But what we make them understand is speech is only related to your oral area,
Mhm.
oromotor area. You're talking about your tongue and your lips and your the way that your lips move and the air
Mhm.
is comes in and goes out, and that's how you formation of words is there.
Right.
But when you're talking, it's not just this part of it.
Yeah.
It is the connection between
Uh,
what you're hearing and what you're processing of the hearing. How do
mhm.
you understand what you've heard? You've heard
Yeah.
something, and then when you heard something, you need to relate it and understand that, okay, the person is talking about that particular thing. And then
Mhm.
when you understand and you process the information that you've heard, then you choose an answer to give.
Correct.
And once
Uh,
the answer is formed, the appropriate answer is formed in your brain, your mouth is in your speech, your the oromotor skills are required to bring out that answer. You know,
okay.
and it is not just one part of it. It is
right.
the entire combination of the entire thing. So you don't know where exactly the breakdown has happened. So
Correct.
it could be, so the first thing that we tell the parents is, of course, they go to the hearing, for a hearing test and see if the child is able to hear or not. Okay, and that once that's being ruled out, you look into other aspects of it. Why is it that the child is not able to communicate, or why is it that the child is not able to do certain things, which, the things that we talked about. So, after getting into a detailed observation and a detailed assessment of where
Mhm.
the problem is lying, then you come up with a strategy, then you come up with a goal, then you come up with a plan to follow.
Okay.
Now, what to do
Yeah.
after that? So that is what
Mm.
it's all about. So
Wow.
it is not one thing. And I would just, as you said, what would the parents do? I would just advise the parents to, first of all, have a very close look at the child. And the
Mm.
moment, every parent, whether, that parent is listening to other people and the grandparents and everything, but in the heart, every mother knows that there is something wrong there. While the child is developing, every mother has a feeling that something is not right. And when that something is not right is there, and you need to take that little hunch very, very seriously,
Mm.
and go and talk to somebody. I would ask the parents to reach out to people, to reach
Mm.
out to experts, get an assessment done, and then work on various things, like try to see, if the child is able to imitate you or not. Imitation is one of the first things that,
Yeah. Mm.
that we are all born in, whichever family that we're born in, we take into that language. We suddenly
Right.
don't start speaking French and
Yes.
Chinese or Italian,
Mm.
because you're imitating. You do what you're seeing around. You try to behave what you're seeing around. So that imitation is a very important skill that needs to happen. The child needs to be able to have an eye contact with you, look at you,
Mm.
and point out to things, the various subtle things which people don't think is very important, are
Mm.
actually very important for a child's development. And also, when you said about parent training and asking, we make them understand that there is a difference between speech and communication. So even though maybe the speech is not there, maybe the child is non-verbal, but that does not limit him to communicate. He can still
Yes.
communicate. Communication happens through your facial expressions, through your
Yes.
gestures, through the sign language. But even for the
Mm.
sign language, which is very complicated, you need to have the understanding. You need to understand, okay, when I do this, this means this
Uh,
particular thing. When I do this, this means this particular thing.
mm.
You but if even if that understanding is not there, there are
Yeah.
various means of communication that can be provided to children. Okay,
Okay.
and that is what we try to give. You
Mm.
try to give a mode of communication, a means of communication to the child.
Okay.
And there is
Mm.
various kinds of things like the pecs, and you talk about picture, you talk about communication board, you talk
Mm.
about the technology. Now there are so many things that have come up,
Mm. Mm.
so it should not limit that. And many times what happens is the parents are forcing the children to talk,
Okay.
you know
Mm.
so, and we all know that, something that we are not very good at, and if we are
Yes.
forced to do it,
Right.
we get frustrated. Like, suppose
Right.
I'm if you're not very good in dancing and somebody pulls you on the stage and says, okay, now you have to dance,
Yeah.
you really are scared of that, and you would never
Right.
want to go in that kind of situation again.
Correct. Correct.
So similarly, forcing the child to do something, or forcing the child to talk, or particularly what happens is, in our Indian families, we know that if guests arrive, we want our children
Mm.
to say rhymes
Mm.
and
Right.
dance or say a particular
Mm.
things, and the parents are very proud that my child is doing that. It's very
Yes.
good, and we all parents should be proud. But we should also be proud if the child is not doing that. It's okay. It's my child. So things like that. Don't force the child to speak,
Mm.
and one should understand that even if the child is non-verbal, there is definitely scope for him to communicate, and
Mm.
all those things. can happen.
Okay. So, from the audience, I mean, in the comment section, I can see Paramayer is saying nice session, and Savita says very well explained by Manju. The assessment of an individual child. Yes, definitely, Manjuji, very nicely you have explained the complete, concept and the joy of learning, and I mean, a great job you are doing. Even, uh,
Thank you.
God bless you and your team. Those who are working hard for this. And thank you for joining here, taking out time.
So
I know
much.
you're very busy, but then it was really nice that you have come on this show. Thanks a lot, Manjuji. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Bhavani. Thanks a lot for having me on this session, and thanks to all the viewers too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.